Professor Weinberg, thank you for accepting our invitation for this interview. It's a great honor to talk to you, the chairman of the Department of Medicine at Fox Chase Center in Philadelphia, at the conference of the National Academy for Scientist Education. Dr. Weinberg, what first inspired you to pursue a career in medicine and research? Was there a defining moment or a person who influenced your path?
Well, both of my parents were physicians, so I spent a lot of time trying to convince myself whether my interest in medicine was my own or doing something to please my parents. But I don't remember a time where I didn't think pursuing a career in science in some form was what I wanted to do. So ultimately, I did convince myself that it was me who wanted to do this, not just my parents wanting me to. I was very lucky during medical school to meet a wonderful man who was my mentor. And I believe I've really only had one professional mentor, for good or for bad, over the 40 or so years of my career, and this was a fellow named Dave Rogers, who did all sorts of remarkable things. And to this day, I still occasionally think, even though he died probably 20 years ago, most days I still think, how would Dave Rogers have solved this problem? Mm-hmm. I am fortunate enough to have a picture of him in my office that I look at. It's directly across from where I sit at my desk. So rarely a day goes by that this important person doesn't enter my thoughts, and I was quite fortunate to have him in my life, particularly when I was younger and more in search of exactly where I wanted to go.
Okay, I think these roles are important in making decisions, but many students are fascinated by science but unsure about choosing between clinical career and research. What advice would you give them? So how to choose between clinical work and research?
Well, like in anything in life, it's much easier to do it if it's something that you're passionate about. I think being passionate about clinical care is, of course, essential to taking care of patients. But it doesn't mean that you can't be passionate about other things like science and research. Most of the physicians that I work with work in an academic setting. They have their own research and teaching responsibilities, as I do. So they haven't been forced to choose. The two pieces, the clinical and the research, interact and are related to each other every day. In the United States, physicians have many options for what to do, but basically, at least in clinical care, they either work in an academic setting in a hospital or a medical school, or they work in something called private practice, where they are not in that setting, but rather work on their own. I think that most physicians in private practice would say that they also are academic in that they want to be up to date on new advances in medicine. So that requires reading journals and going to meetings and paying attention to the world around them. They may not be contributing every moment to new knowledge, but they certainly use that new knowledge. And I think if they didn't do that, they very quickly become the kind of doctors that neither you nor I would want to go to see to take care of us.
Okay. You have dedicated your career to fighting cancer, a field that combines deep science with profound human impact. What motivates you every day in your work?
Well, I find the problems associated with the prevention of cancer in particular to be the most intellectually stimulating for me. So while I work at a cancer center, I'm not an oncologist. I'm a gastroenterologist and epidemiologist by training. So the things that I'm interested in are, from a research perspective, is how do you keep people from getting cancer? Or how do you detect cancer early? But I'm often asked, why do I work in a cancer center and take care of patients with cancer all the time? Isn't that depressing? Because more often than perhaps other clinical settings, they die. And that's true. But I hope I never have cancer. I hope you never have cancer. I hope people I care about never have cancer. But if any of us do, I hope that I demonstrate the same grace and resilience under pressure that most of the patients that I take care of do. And if one of the things that motivates people to want to care for one another is being empathic and sensing that the person across the desk or in the bed in front of you is ill and needs your help, these patients are ill and they need my and my colleagues' help. What I appreciate, though, is that even though they are having what can be a terrifying and often fatal journey, they, at least the patients I take care of, are very appreciative. And I'm not practicing medicine to have someone thank me all the time. But I appreciate that the patients realize that small victories are particularly meaningful.
Yeah.
And that many patients I take care of who don't have cancer and don't really have a big problem, so to speak, to worry about, seem to think that their smaller problem is the end of the world. Cancer patients realize they actually have a problem that might be the end of their world. So helping them be free of pain, helping them, when it's appropriate, live longer to spend time with their family, to see their daughter get married, to watch a grandchild be born. They're extraordinarily appreciative of that. They know full well that they may not see the next grandchild born, but the fact that they can get some help to see the first one is extraordinarily meaningful for them. And I don't like it, of course, when my patients die, but I certainly take professional pride and satisfaction in watching them be well enough to do some of the things they still want to do.
And working with these patients, I'm sure that it also has an impact on your personality, on how you see the whole world, or how you assess the value of the life.
You know, I'm not sure that's true.
No?
I would love to think that I now demonstrate routinely perfect judgment about what's important and what isn't. But I think I'm pretty human, and I get upset about things that I shouldn't get upset about, and I need to be reminded of what my priorities are. And, you know, I often wonder that if I were ever in the position of some of my patients, would I handle it as well as they do?
Okay, that's a very different situation. Okay, you have had the chance to visit the conference of the National Academy of Scientists Education here in Hungary, and you met students and mentors as well. What were your impressions?
I was extraordinarily impressed by the students and the mentors. Their commitment is very impressive. The program itself is and should be a model for other programs that either don't exist but should around the world, or in places that are trying to do something like this. They could certainly come to Hungary and see how successful it can be when the program is done well. This is my first visit to Hungary, and certainly my first visit directly with this program, which I understand has been going on for a little more than 10 years. And the growth, the number of students, the number of schools, the number of mentors is wonderful. And the duration of the program is long enough now that some hard measures of success, how many students who started in high school went to university and studied science? Of those students, how many went on to pursue a PhD or an MD or both? Those numbers are really quite high. And I come from a country where the education of our young people is something that we talk about a lot, spend a tremendous amount of money on, but don't seem to do very well. And I don't think that there's a program like this in the US for students who want some access to science enrichment like this one. I was talking with my new colleagues today. Philadelphia, the city where I come from, has about 10 million people in the greater Philadelphia area, about the same size as Hungary. If someone asked me tomorrow to begin a program of science enrichment for high school and college and other students in the Philadelphia area, and in 10 years go from nothing to something as impressive as what Hungary has done, that would be impossible, I truly believe. So I think that this program is great. It should be something that Hungary and Hungarians take tremendous pride in, and I hope it continues to be successful.
Thank you. I hope that you can come back, return to Hungary, and you can see how this whole program will progress. And thank you for accepting our invitation, and I hope that you will have a very pleasant stay here in Hungary. Thank you.
Thank you.